Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Knights of the Alternate Histories, and this time we're going to be continuing the 1,000 sub special. Once again, thank you guys for the 1,000 subs, and if you want to see the 1,500, we're going to be able to see it. Now, thank you guys so much, make sure to join the Discord and like and subscribe, and yeah, let's get into the alternate history. Just so you know, there was a pandemic and it wiped out the US government. We left off in 2040, with the Confederacy reuniting after a number of wars, as well as California taking over Northern California with the help of Southern California, and Deseret and Texas growing weary of Mexico, as well as Canada being mostly peaceful with the nations, not wishing to annex any as they start getting different cultures, but now a distinct dialect would start to form as well as different cultures. Now, a new war would begin to break out, with the Northwest Coalition fighting both the Midwest Coalition and the other Midwest Coalition against Michigan and the UP, trying to take over this to truly have one nation and divide it along the lines in hopes of a bigger unifying once they get basically everyone under control, because in these early years would be the most proper time for war, because if they could control and stop their culture from growing without growing alongside theirs, this could save them a lot of trouble. But now, it was beginning to where the culture has started to develop, and so they would start fighting as if they were actual countries, and tooth and nail. The UP would slowly get pushed back with Michigan getting moved up its peninsula, but also the Midwest Coalition would now start to be taken over, and they would unite each other. The UP would start to get invaded, and the Northern Coalition would use this as an excuse to slowly drop down troops and start also taking over Michigan. Meanwhile, Missouri would be the last holdout really for any strong military force, with Kansas City kind of being the last holdout, but it wouldn't be that special, as soon it would get taken over and crushed, but it would go down in history kind of like the Alamo did with Texas. Soon, it would just be Michigan and the lower part, and this wouldn't last long. They would officially sign the peace declaration, and it would be over. Though, a culture clash would now start to begin. As the culture has quickly changed and softened or hardened to one another, the US wouldn't be American anymore. You would be Nebraskan, Kansasian, Texan. You wouldn't be American. Now, the Midwest Coalition, now the only one, would take all of Michigan, while the North Corner takes the UP, and they kind of split Missouri and Iowa down the middle. Now, this would lead to some interesting routes, but they would plan to reunite. They would just have to get the culture clash under first, but a reunification deal was always in there, always keeping along the same cultures and the same map. Now, New England would start getting invaded by the New York-Pennsylvania Union. This would be the main reason, is just to simply get more land and the industry. As New York decimates the population of all of New England combined, this would be seen as more of a protection from Canada rather than an actual takeover. New England overall would be fine with it, but a lot of states would still fight back. Especially New Hampshire and Vermont would be the quickest ones. So, with only fighting at half-heart, this would overall hurt the nation rather than help it. And, well, since only half of them really want to fight, everything would start to fall apart for the army, especially when they start taking losses. In the end, New Hampshire would try and give a last plea deal to Canada. But before they could even get the message out, Concord would be overran, and all government options would cease. The armies would either run up to Canada and try and seek refugee crisis, or just surrender. But the New York army would slowly march more and more forward, about to annex them and assimilate their culture into one. Now that New England was fully annexed into New York, Pennsylvania, they would need a new name. This would become the Eastern Confederation. I know there's a lot of confederations going on, but the truth is, Americans are just uncreative. And with this happening, the Eastern Confederation would start looking its way to invade Virginia. But there'd be other nations also wanting to invade Virginia too. The Eastern, Mid, and Southern Confederations would attack Virginia all at once. Virginia and Maryland would be left completely unprepared, and already suffering a huge population loss from the loss of Washington, D.C., there would be nothing that could be done. They would try and fight and hold them off, but really, this would be the last stand of the old United States, of the centralized government. It would be the end of an era as DC would fall. Now, each of these nations wouldn't want to take Washington, D.C. in of itself because none of them trusted the others not to claim the official title of the United States. So, they would all divide it evenly amongst themselves to try and keep it. But some might get a little bit more than others, and they would start using that to their advantage. With DC getting divided up so narrowly, it would almost be kind of a fight for who gets what landmark, who gets the White House, who gets the Congress building, till it is desired by the powers just to level it. This would be a huge collapse of culture. This would point these three as the main aggressors and would overall hurt the trust between the states, destroying what once made them whole. The next war would be the reunification of Southern California. Even though for the namesake Southern California has already been taken up, California would want it back. Knowing that they would have a larger population and a better industry, they would have to kick them out and knock them out really early. So, they would invade, and they wouldn't get as far as they needed to. Not taking out any major city population points and allowing them to mobilizing would spell disaster, almost losing all of their territory that they pushed out of. This would now begin the big population of the men. More and more, the Californians would have to retreat, and all Southern California would start getting really militaristic. Knowing that they have to fight more and more, California would now be a war zone. Whole cities would get abandoned, going to either Jefferson or Deseret, just trying to hide and escape. But every single time that they do and decide to come back, another war would just break out, and they would have to do it all over again. This would allow Southern California, who hasn't seen all of that much war in their territory, to just steamroll through regular California. This would lead to the case of the war just coming to an end. With all of the major population stations taken out, as all of the areas left already were affected in the First Californian War, it would be over. We leave off with this map, with Southern California changing their name to simply California, 3 new confederacies all uniting, and each one plans on betraying another one, and expansionist goals set in as the cultures start to divide. Outside help is limited, just thinking we should leave the US into kind of its own personal bubble, unless of course you're their neighbors. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed this video. It was pretty fun to make. Once again, I'm going back to kind of retrofill, but don't worry, the next episode I'm going to have more of my images, and overall it would be pretty good. Make sure to like and subscribe, and have a good one, because overall, it has been pretty fun, and yeah, videos are now on Wednesdays for more public views, and yeah. Wow! what a great video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I thought it was overall pretty fun and pretty cool. On the video on the right, well, that's video things you should watch. I thought it was alright, but I mean, that's something Timmy would watch.